Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another review. This is another paid request, this time from the Zero Cool John. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting pretty much any type of videos, feel free to send them either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And this is for In the Mouth of Madness, a John Carpenter film that I would easily say is one of my favorites of the man. John Carpenter is my favorite director, without a doubt, because I think he has a great, unique take on mood, atmosphere, the way he'll write characters at times. Even though he didn't technically write this one, but the way he'll utilize them, utilize actors, way he'll do the score, or even if someone else does the score, it's like he'll direct them to feel a bit more like his motif. Like Ennio Morricone. He had Ennio Morricone do the score for The Thing, but then he had his own fingerprints on it as well. And I always thought this was one of his most underrated. I remember seeing this on VHS tape back in the day. Sadly, did not see this in the theater, but in on VHS tape, I remember it was a New Line Cinema. This is around the time where you would get these tapes and they would advertise films like, I think the VHS tape for this advertised The Mangler, Toby Hooper, and Stephen King. I believe that was the case. And I love the cover, because the cover was weird, and it had this tagline, "Lived any good books lately?" And it's made me curious, like, what's going on here? And I remember seeing the trailer for this. I forget it was what VHS tape that was. Like, what is this movie about? And it's a very trippy, H.P. Lovecraft inspired odyssey that I don't understand why it bombed so badly. And I can see why John Carpenter is a cynical guy nowadays. Just think of it. I know people say he's grumpy, and he is grumpy. He is a grumpy ass. But I can understand it because this is a guy that made so many good fucking movies that now are deemed, oh, classic, cult classic. But when they came out, they did nothing. Whether it be The Thing, whether it be Big Trouble in Little China, whether it be this movie. Like, so many times, it's like he hit it out of the park, and then with critics, with box office, it's like the guy couldn't catch a break, and that did affect the career. He was still able to keep making movies, thankfully, somehow, but I, you can understand there's a part of me that goes, where the fuck were people then? And it kept happening. It's not like once or twice. It kept happening. Other than Halloween. But, or Escape from New York. But, I don't know. The 90s horror films did a bad rap. Even though there are tons of 90s horror films I think are great, in my opinion. From Jacob's Ladder, The First Power, Child's Play 2, Exorcist 3. Exorcist 3 if you're learning how to talk. From Wes Craven's New Nightmare, People Under the Stairs, In the Mouth of Madness, Mimic, Deep Rising, Blair Witch I mean, it goes on and on. Each year you'll find a horror film. I like that film. Great. And In the Mouth of Madness is one of them. Pretty much you have Sam Neill. He's an insurance investigator. And the first time you see him, he's going to an insane asylum. You know, kneeing people in the balls. You know, get me the fuck out of here. They put him in the damn insane asylum. And you still have that sense of humor. He's like, I'm not insane. Then everyone's like, oh, I'm not insane too. And then they start playing this music. And he's looking around. He's like, oh my god. Not this music. Oh no, not the Carpenters. This is the Carpenter song. And before we go on, I love the score too. Like the opening, I love the guitar riff of the score. Do, 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 do. Great way to open the film, and yeah, it opens up. You already know there's a good sense of doom and gloom. with just the way the outside of the mental hospital is, and then inside you have John Glover, who was in Gremlins 2, and he's been in a lot of other movies. And then David Warner from Waxwork, from Ninja Turtles 2 Secret of the Ooze, from plenty of others. He comes in trying to ask him about, what happened. And then when he goes in, Sam Neill has literally painted the whole wall, all the walls with crosses. He painted himself with crosses. You want to ask about my them. Did you think I'm crazy? You have smoke? It's getting worse out there, isn't it? Sam Neill, I think this is his best performance. I like Sam Neill. I think he's a good actor, whether it be in Jurassic Park, whether it be in Event Horizon. But this was the performance that always caught me as his best, because he's at times smooth when he's the insurance investigator. He's trying to be down to earth, where he's like, this is not reality. To them being just crazed and confused, to being scared, to being just almost contemplative and accepting his insanity. He goes through the whole board of emotions. I think he does it very well. And the story that's told is a very interesting story, where it flashes to how this all happened. Like I say, he's an insurance investigator. This author named Sutter Kane, his books are becoming very popular, even more than Stephen King, as they say it. And it seems like people who are reading his novel are becoming insane. And in fact, this guy with an axe smashes through the window and is like, "Do you read Sutter Kane?" And Sam Neill's like, "What?" And you get these cool visual notices, like the guy has like 2 pupils in one eye, and he gets taken out. And then pretty much Sutter Kane is missing, and Sam Neill gets the job to find him with the help of Julie Carmen, who I remember from the 1988 film Fright Night Part 2, where she played the main villain. Like Julie Carmen. And funny enough, Charlton Heston, which I wish... I don't know how they got Charlton Heston. I don't know if they gave him a script and he said okay, or if he's like, hey, John Carpenter, or... I try to remember if they ever mentioned how they got Charlton Heston. Did it seem that around this time he'll do a part, but if it was a bit part, like he had a bit part in True Lies, he had a bit part in this movie. I don't know what else, because that was in his waning years, as in, he's not starring in movies. But it's always cool to see Charlton Heston there. He's kind of the guy hiring them to find Sutter Kane. And then weird things start happening. He did these weird dreams, whether it be about these creepy looking police officers, or going down this alleyway, and it really becomes more and more trippy as it goes on, with some interesting ideas. Even the simple idea of Sam Neill looking at all these book covers and noticing these lines, and if you connect them all and cut them up, it forms a map. And then Sam Neill thinks this is all some publicity stunt for this new book. This is another reason why Julie Carmen and Charlton Heston wants to find this guy, is because he's supposed to have this new book, and they want it because people are yearning for the new Sutter Kane. And as on their way to town, that's when the shit really hits the fan. Because Julie Carmen's driving, but then there's this person on a bicycle that keeps appearing, and each time he keeps appearing, it's more and more fucked up. The road at one point disappears, it's like they're flying through the clouds. And then when they get to the town, it's the town that was described in Sutter Kane's novels. And Sutter Kane is played by Jürgen Prochnow, which I always forget he was in this. I don't know why, because he does a great job. But he was the bad guy in Beverly Hills Cop 2. Uh, he was in The Keep. He's been in quite a few films. Good actor. But he does a great job in this. Like in the scene later on with him and Sam Neill in the confession booth. You know, my books have been read more than the Bible. And what I liked about the film, it does get into that realm of reality and fiction, and what if somehow you were pulled into a book? What if somehow, without you knowing, you were living in a book? As one character puts it, reality is just what we tell each other. Sane and insane could switch places if insane was the majority. So it has these really interesting ideas laced with good performances, especially Sam Neill. John Carpenter does a wonderful job directing-wise. Some people complain about the effects. I mean, the effects I'm fine with for the time. And you have some pretty good practical effects. Yeah, at times, when you see some of it, it looks a little bit stiff. But I'll take that over CGI any day. I think for the time and for the budget, they worked rather well. Again, and also the ideas help too. You have this really nice hotel manager, which I recognize the lady. I forget her name, but she was in Critters 2. Or was she in Critters 3? She might have been Critters 3, actually. I've seen her in other stuff too, where it seems like a very sweet lady. But then you realize she's a monster who's got like her husband handcuffed, and she's like got these tentacles and is whacking the guy with an axe. And you're like, and yeah, when you see she looks a bit, stiff, to be fair, but just the idea, I think that's why you don't see a whole lot of it. The whole idea is just so weird and out there that it kind of sells the illusion, at least to me. And just, there's a lot of creativity. There's characters that do the crowd walk and their head is like twisted and turned. This town grows more and more freaky and fucked up. And you start to realize more and more what's going on. That these books are kind of creating a new reality for the new gods and this H.P. Lovecraft type of feel to it. I remember as a kid, these images still stuck in my head, like when Sutter Kane is he's explaining to Sam Neill how he's kind of getting the power to create whatever reality he wants. There's a bit where he goes, "Did I ever tell you my favorite color is blue?" He does this, and all of a sudden, everything is blue. And Sam Neill can't believe it. It's like, shows just how... I mean, can you imagine if someone says, your reality ain't real. Fuck you talking about? Your reality ain't shit. I could change just like this. And then maybe Sam Neill's a character in the book that he was never real to begin with. And it makes you think a bit. And not a lot of movies do that nowadays. And I still remember the image where Sutter Kane, Jürgen Prochnow, literally takes his face and he becomes a book page. And he rips his face, and behind it, when you see it's words from a book. So he's literally become a page of a book that he's ripped open. And then you see these monsters that, granted, I would like to have seen more of, but these K&B effects did a nice job with these cool-looking monsters that, on the Scream Factory Blu-ray, in the making of, like the interviews, you do see a bit more of those monsters. They look cool. Really neat designs. And it's a shame that you don't really get a good look at them. I'm sure they thought, well, if you did a good look at them, maybe they would look too goofy or silly. But I like the designs. Like I said, I do wish wide shots that were like stop motion. But I mean, again, there was some really cool designs of these creatures. Again, if there was a way to do it, show more than practically, it would have been nice to see. And pretty much the whole deal is that Sutter Kane wants to have more people to believe. And John Carpenter, I'm usually the type of guy, I will admit, that I'm a sucker for happy endings. Well, that kind of happy ending, but that's not a happy ending we're talking about. You know, the massage type of happy ending. I think everybody's a fan of that. But, you know, a happy ending in the story, good guys prevail. I'm just a sucker for that. I can't help it. I just am. Just my personal preference. But if you're going to do that other aspect, to me, you have to do it fairly well. And somehow John Carpenter just knows how to do it. Usually. I mean, The Ward, I think the whole film sucked, not just the ending. But it's, I think because he kind of, in The Thing, in this movie, he kind of tips his hat where this might not end the best way, and there's also either a question mark or there's a certain sense of direction that he's able to handle it the right way. So, like, spoiler alert, spoilers, when Sam Neill gets out of it, and then apparently months have gone by without him realizing it, just the book has come out, and even Charlton Heston goes, well, the movie's coming out next week. And more people going crazy, and Charlton Heston goes, I don't remember sending you Julie Carmen, you know, I don't remember sending her with you. And then it cuts back to him in asylum, and things go off kilter. I think it's well directed, has a nice sense of mood, atmosphere, certain things where it'll have all these flashes with all these creepy images with people, makeup effects, and fucked up, discombobulated. To give you an impending sense of doom, John Carpenter knows how to do it. I think that's what it is. It's meant to elicit a creep factor, and whether it be Prince of Darkness or this movie or The Thing, he knows how to do well with nice photography. So, again, I still think some pretty decent special effects for its time. And again, good you get all the ingredients involved that helps sweeten the deal, so to speak, with that. Ideas, interesting ideas. I like Sam Neill walking out on the whole asylum. It makes your mind think what happened. Like, what the hell happened to all these inmates? You heard it. You get a little inkling of it. But then when Sam Neill comes out, just everything just up shit creek. You're like, what the fuck happened? But that's an example where in your head, it's more creepier than if you saw it. Just, yeah, a lot of times I do want to see the shit. But in that case, it's like The Thing. I don't need to see what the fuck happened with the Norwegian camp. Then we got a theme prequel that answered the question that you didn't give a shit to be answered. And the ending is like, it's the end of the world as he knows it, but he feels fine, and he's laughing. Because he's with everybody else now, enjoying the movie. Now, whatever point they want to make, I don't know, but I guess, at least he went out with a smile on his face, I guess. It goes back to that phrase, you know, sane and insane could switch places if the insane were the majority. And what happens if you're in a world where the insane is the majority of it? And the movie he's watching is the movie we saw. I think he even said directed by John Carpenter. So it's interesting, like meta, before meta was the usual thing. This is kind of when meta started happening, because you had Wes Craven's New Nightmare, you had this film. Did they come out the same year? I don't know. It was around the same time, and then Scream a few years later. I mean, the elements worked. The interesting story that was rather unique, a good cast, Sam Neill given a terrific performance, great mood atmosphere from John Carpenter, some pretty decent effects by TMB. Yeah, once in a while there's a little bit stiffness and some practical effects, but I appreciate the creativity, and I appreciate that more than just glossy CGI that will look like a video game. And people talk about H.P. Lovecraft type of stories. I think this is a movie that's one of the ones closest to H.P. Lovecraft love letter. I really do. All in all, I think this is one of John Carpenter's best films. It probably would be in my top 5. I mean, The Thing is number 1. Big Trouble Little China is number 2. This is up there. It might be number 3. I know it's in top 5. Might be number 3 or 4. I'm not sure. I don't know if I've done a John Carpenter list. It's hard because I liked a lot of his movies. There's very few that I disliked. But yeah, In the Mouth of Madness is an absolute classic. Love the film. So with that said, thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.